Hey, friends, welcome to day one of Operation Reset. We are officially doing this thing, and I'm so excited that you are partnering with me in this free workshop. You just recognizing that you need a reset is already like 50% of moving forward and getting to the other side. So many people don't even recognize they have a need for a reset. So you are already winning, friend. I'm so happy for you. So if you haven't recognized yet, you will soon. We're talking a lot about how we manage our time and our priorities during Operation Reset. And there's a big piece to this, and that is knowing what matters and what your priorities are. Knowing those two things really matters when it comes to time management. It's a huge piece of protecting your time, because if you don't know what's important, you don't know why you need to protect your time. You could be doing anything that you want to do, right? And so also, when we get into coping mechanisms and why we may need to quit unhealthy habits or create better boundaries around things, like knowing your priorities and what you want in your life, it's really going to matter. Okay. And so we have to spend time on this. So day one, which by the way, I already switched things. So day one and day two were the opposite of what you're going to be getting, because as I was doing this, I was like, if I do day two and day one, y'all might not come back, because it's going to be all about like tracking your time and how you're spending it and all of that good stuff. I probably shouldn't have even told you that, but it's really important that even before we do that, we really talk about what our priorities are. Do you know already? And if you do, if you know your priorities, the question then is, does your life and the way you spend your time reflect it? We can, like I said in the welcome intro, we can say God first, family second, and then work all day long, but it doesn't mean our life reflects it, because a lot of times we know it up here, but our actions are different because, again, something's out of alignment, and it's just words, right? And so when we think about that, we may sometimes cringe, and we may be like, oh, like, how did I get things so out of whack? For the record, it happens to every single one of us. The fact that you recognize it is a big deal. Like I said before, that you're already recognizing that the reset needed to happen. Okay. But here is why it happens. I'm going to talk to you about this idea of being shipwrecked. Okay. So this is why I believe that things get misaligned and we start doing things that really don't reflect our priorities. I want you to think about being on a boat, okay? I've only been on one cruise, and it wasn't my best experience. It was way too cold. My husband didn't enjoy it, and he was cranky the whole time. My kids weren't really loving it, and they were little, and so yeah, I wasn't a fan of it, but I do love being out on the lake. So I'm going to take the experience from being on the lake and put it into, I don't know, going on a cruise, because cruise sounds like luxury. And right now, when there's snow on the ground, I could really use some sunshine and ocean. Okay. So listen, you're going on a trip. Okay. And you're on this cruise ship. And you're so excited, you know where you're going. Maybe you're going to the Bahamas, you're packed for it, you have an itinerary, and you're on your way. And then something happens on the boat, and it capsizes, okay? Something happens, you go overboard. This is what I think happens in life, because we have a plan at some point. Like we had something going on. Even us who fly by the seat of our pants naturally, we kind of knew we want a good life. We want a happy marriage, or like we want to raise our kids a certain way. Like we know those kind of things, but then we stop living like that. Not intentionally. It's just a little bit of things at a time. But here's what I think happens. When the boat capsizes and we get knocked off the boat and we're in the water, we go into survival mode, right? We start picking up these coping mechanisms. Like we're just waiting in the water, waiting for someone to come and get us. We're not trying to get to shore. We're just, we're on the hamster wheel. We're just like wading water, just trying to stay afloat instead of drown. Maybe there's something in the water and we're just trying to get to it. We're just surviving, friends. And I think that is what happens in our life. It's something that is meant to help us get through a hard time. And it's supposed to last for a short time frame, right? Short time, not long term. And the next thing you know, it's been years and we have taken those coping mechanisms from just trying to stay afloat and have lived our life. Those have become our habits, not healthy habits, but just surviving habits. You may know some of these off the top of your head. I know one reason, fun fact, when I was pregnant with Rylan, I was struggling really bad with like postpartum depression when I was pregnant. And I was reading books all the time. And my mom asked me one day, she was like, "Are you depressed?" And at that time, hilariously, because I've since struggled with depression a lot, I was like, "No, I'm not depressed." I thought depression was crying all day and just sitting in a corner or something. I wasn't doing that. No. But what I was doing was living my life through reading about someone else's and just like romance novel all day, every day. Like I was so checked out. Again, I was just trying to survive. We do this in a lot of ways. We, in work, we go into performance and striving and chasing success. We do this in relationships. We do, depending on how we've been raised and trauma that we may have endured as a child, like we do different things. Some of my coping mechanisms, definitely social media, eating my feelings. I've over-volunteered, overworked, like anything I can do to pretend like everything's great when it's really, really not, because facing the hard and looking at it for what it actually is was too much for me. And so when we get in that place, like we don't recognize it and we don't do it intentionally. Again, we're just trying to survive. And that's how we end up on this hamster wheel. We're on this hamster wheel, just doing life, doing the same thing over and over and over. We're not going anywhere. We don't have a plan. We're just trying to survive. God does not want you to just survive. He does not want you to just exist. You were created for a purpose and with a plan, and you have a mission. God wants you to not just live, but to, what's the word? I've said this so many times. Like, he doesn't want you to exist. He wants you to truly live. He doesn't want you to survive. He wants you to thrive. We talked a lot in the very beginning. Maybe you signed up with the idea of like thriving in 2025. Wouldn't that be awesome to thrive in 2025? Can we raise our hands for that? I know I want that. Let's do it. And so before we do that, we're going to look at a few things, because depending on how long you've been in survival mode, you may have forgotten about what you want or what your dreams are and that kind of stuff. Okay. So again, real quick, now that I'm back to my notes, sometimes coping mechanisms will look like binging Netflix, like I said, reading books, overcommitting, over volunteering, over shopping, eating too much. There's so many different ways that we do this. But somehow what was meant to help us get through in the short term becomes our new normal in life until something causes us to recognize things aren't great, and it has us searching for a reset. And this, my friends, this is your reset. And so we're considering this day one. It's a day to switch things up, to dream again, and consider what you want just in case things have changed. Some of you have been in survival mode for so long that you may not have ever answered the questions that I'm going to be asking you. Some of you guys may not be in survival mode at all. Again, do not skip past this part. Stick with me, friend. Okay, stick with me. Pinky promise. Okay, so questions to help you know where you are going and what's important to you. Not too long ago, I was reading my Bible in the book of Mark, and something like just, I don't know, for weeks, I just kept seeing it over and over and over. And it was this idea where Jesus was asking in scripture, what do you want? And I felt like during my prayer time and when I was journaling, I felt like God was asking me, what do you want? And I don't know that I had ever answered that boldly with conviction. And honestly, I don't even know that I knew what I wanted. I had to journal through that. And I was like, what do I want? And so several times in the New Testament, Jesus asks people what they want. And I want you to know that if you're a Christian, Jesus cares about what you want. So many times we're like, he doesn't care about my hopes and my dreams. Like, I just need to, like, you know, read my Bible and do good things. Jesus cares. He cares. He wants to partner with you in it. God created you with a purpose. You don't think he gave you those dreams? He totally gave you those dreams, depending on what the dreams are, of course. You know, if you're dreaming about having affairs, maybe not those dreams, right? So again, Jesus wants to partner with you in those dreams, and he wants you to share those with him. Some of you are like, so scared. Like, some of you, first of all, haven't dreamed and you don't even know what you want. I want to challenge you to get quiet and become still in a place where you can just ask yourself, what do I want? Help me figure out what I want. Pray that prayer and say, God, help me know, like, what do I want? Because some of you have been, again, that's a great sign that you're in survival mode. If you don't know what you want, more than likely you've been in survival mode probably recently, maybe your whole entire life. And so it's going to take some getting quiet to really press in just with that. And that's going to be a challenge for you. I want to challenge you to stick with me, lean in, and don't be afraid of not knowing what you want, because even if you don't know what you want, another question that you can always ask is, what do I not want? Sometimes that question's easier. You know, I don't want to be divorced. I don't want family. I don't want kids that are deadbeats and don't do anything. I don't want kids that are on drugs. I don't want kids with mental health problems. Like, you know, like there's lots of things that we don't want. So if you can't think of what you want, pray about that. And in the meantime, make a list of the things that you don't want. Okay. And so, what do you want? Again, Jesus asked this several times. And, in Mark 10:53, he's talking to the blind beggar, and the beggar is asking, like, hey, over here. And Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. He asks to be able to see, and God immediately heals him. Some of you, Jesus is asking you what you want and you don't know the answer. And again, like, lean into that and recognize that Jesus, he wants to partner with you in it, and he wants you to become clear on what you want. So Jesus invites us to lean in to our deepest desires and to name them honestly before him. The other thing to know, there's another time when I believe it's James and John. James and John, I'm like, hey, Jesus, come over here. You know, they're a couple of his disciples, and he's like, will you do anything that we ask, or something like that? And Jesus says, what do you want? And they say they want power. They want to sit next to him in heaven. And at that time, you know, even though what they wanted wasn't in alignment with what God wanted for them, Jesus still was very compassionate, and he met them right where they were. He says, you don't even know what you're asking. And so again, I want to challenge you, no matter what it is that you think you want, even if it is power, you know, talk to God about it so that he can help you get things in alignment if it's not in alignment. All right. So we are going to talk about audacious dreams. When was the last time that you dreamed about your future? Again, survival mode and dreaming, those two things don't typically go together. So if it's been a while since you dreamed, that's okay. It probably means you've been in survival mode. Today, you are going to get to dream again. The sky is the limit. We serve a God that's so good, and he loves you. He wants what's best for you. And so I want you to think about like the dream. What do you want? What values are important to you? How do you live them out on a daily and weekly basis? And at the end of your life, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want those closest to you to say about you? How do you want them to remember you? And now I want to pause. Like you're going to get out your workbook and you're going to do this little exercise with me. Okay. So when I was in direct sales, I was at a top leader retreat. And at the time, I believe it was probably 2013. And I had 4 children, and 12 years ago, I think. So 12 years ago, gosh, totally different age than what my kids are today. Today, I have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old who just got married. My 23-year-old is engaged and getting married next year. And I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, okay? When I did this exercise for the first time, again, 12 years ago, my kids are now at the age of where they were when I did this exercise. They're older, actually. And so I want you to write yourself down, write your name, and then how old you are, and then write the ages of your kids. If you got 1 kid, you got 4 kids, write them all down. And then how old are they, if I didn't tell you that? If you're married, who's that person? How old are they? Are there other people that are important in your life? You know, maybe you don't have kids, but your mother's still alive or your grandparents still alive. Write those names down. And if you know how old they are, write their ages down. Maybe you have a grandchild or a nephew, anyone that's important to you. I want you to write the names of those people that you have those relationships with. And then I want you to, again, list their ages. And then I want you to think about 10 years from now. In 10 years, how old will everybody be? So, how old will you be? How old will they be? Do you have hopes and dreams for them? Especially if you have a spouse and kids, right? How do you want them to be living in 10 years? I don't know about you, but I know for me, I have a lot of prayers and high hopes for myself and the people that are in my life. Do I want them walking with Jesus? Do I want to have a happy, healthy marriage? Do I want to be out of debt? Do I want my kids to be living for Jesus? You know, I have all of those things that I have written down for myself. And now I want you to ask yourself, is the life that I'm living today going to help them get there? Like, what am I doing to impact that? Because yes, everything's not your responsibility, but I do believe we do have impact. And for your spouse, if you want a healthy marriage, that's going to take you're doing a little bit of work, right? Your children, if you want them to grow up and know Jesus, are you reading the Bible with them? Are you taking them to church? Are you having conversations with them that are hard? You know, when something bad happens or when they see something on TV that doesn't really reflect your values, are you having those kind of conversations? Are you talking to them about different opportunities? Are you talking about your own walk with God? Same thing with like getting out of debt. Maybe you want to be debt free. Like, are you still using the credit card? Girl, if you're still using the credit card, that is not going to help you be debt free, right? We have to look at these things to see, like, am I living the life today that's going to help me become the person that I need to be to live these things out, or, you know, to impact those that are in my life? And so here's just some of mine personally. Okay. So 10 years from now, my youngest child will be 23 years old. She is such a mama's girl. She's the gift that I thought I was done having kids, and here I end up pregnant, and I thought there was no chance I was ever going to have a girl, and she's a gift. I want her serving God. I want all of my kids serving God. I want them to be confident in their convictions. I want them leading in their life. I want them to come visit home and hang out. And again, I want to be debt free. I personally want to have written some books. I want to have a nonprofit. Like, some of these things have, like, when I did this exercise, gosh, probably 2020, like, these are things that are still on my list that I am definitely closer than where I was. But again, you have to ask yourself, like, am I living like that? Like, what am I doing today to get me closer to that? Right. And this is going to help you know where you should spend your time. If those are your goals or your dreams, then what kind of goals can we set in the short term to help us get there? Again, I want to be happily married, and I want us to be having fun and spending time traveling, spending time with our grandkids. I expect grandkids by then. I already have one child married and another one getting married next year. I think 10 years, grandchildren. Absolutely. And one already moved back to Georgia, and I'm in Kentucky. So I am going to be traveling. I want to be financially stable, debt-free, able to give freely, serving God, making a positive impact on others as we live out being the hands and feet of Jesus. Again, how am I living today to help me be that person? I want to be running around. I don't want to be tired. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be sick. How am I taking care of myself today? Do you have dreams and aspirations when it comes to your finances, your career, your relationships, your personal relationship with God, your health? And what would you want to do in your life if you were guaranteed success? If the sky is the limit and you could do anything in the world without money being an issue, what would you want to do? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Now is the time to dream, friend. I want you to ask yourself that question. Like, what would you want your life to look like? You could just snap your finger and it all happen. What would you want it to look like? If money weren't an issue, if you weren't afraid, if your insecurities were no longer a thing and you weren't, afraid that people would look at you weird because you don't talk like certain people or you don't look like certain people. I want you to really take some time to think about that. Like, what would you want? Again, because when we know what we want, we will be a little bit more accepting of the things that it will require. And so once you do this, we're going to do this little why exercise. Okay. And this is something that for those who are going to be doing VIP, like we're going to do this exercise together because it's really hard for me to do this just like this, but we're going to do this for the VIPs. So VIPs, I hope you will join me so that we can do this together, because I promise you that doing this exercise, I mean, you can do it on your own, but I promise you that if we do it together, you will get to that gritty place where you're like, ugh, you want to cry. And I know sometimes we think, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I hate crying, for the record. But when there are so many distractions in our life, we have to get super gritty to know that we know that we know the rooted, like where the root is on our why. And so the why exercise, basically, you ask yourself those questions. If money weren't an issue, if fear wasn't an issue, if your insecurities weren't an issue, if literally you could just snap your fingers and do the thing, what would you want to do? And I want you to do this for yourself personally. Okay. Sometimes it's easy for us to think about our kids and our spouse, but I want you to think about this for you, just you and Jesus. What would you want? Because I think that is a place where, as someone who struggles sometimes with feeling unworthy, I don't feel worthy enough to even recognize what my own dreams are. And so I want to challenge you to lean into that, even if it's uncomfortable, and ask yourself, what would I want? Don't deflect. Okay. Don't deflect. What would you want? And then I want you to ask yourself, why? Why do you want that? Why does that matter? Why would it be important? What would it feel like to have that, to be that? Okay. And when you write this, you're going to write it out on paper. You're going to write what you want, and then you're going to ask the why, and then you're going to write the answer to that. And then you're going to keep asking yourself why. You have to ask yourself why at least 7 times. If you still do not have tears after 7 times of asking yourself why, you're doing it wrong. Okay. I want you to really get into your feelings. And I know some of us have we've built up this armor to protect us from feeling emotions. And so the idea of feeling emotions is uncomfortable. And so we want to do everything to you stay back here. I'm not letting you in. Listen, this is between you and God. Unless you're VIP and you want to do this together with me, because I would love to do this exercise together. But I want you to ask yourself and sit with it. What's the why? Why? Why does it matter? Why would you want to do this? And, for me personally, I can go on and share a little bit of this if you want to continue. Actually, no, maybe I'll go on and tell you. So for me personally, when I did this exercise, hold on, maybe I have it. I have the sheets. I did this years ago. I pulled this question from a workshop I did in 2019 because it was so good. I have a mission statement and everything. So I'm going to read it just from here because I think that'll be very raw and fresh. So, speaking life into women to help them overcome obstacles and make a positive impact in their life, family, and community. Okay, this doesn't have the question that I have, apparently. I'm still looking. Okay, I might cry, but I'm gonna try not to for sake of time. Okay, so when I ask myself, why does that matter? It might be because I want to help people. Why do you want to help people? I want to help people because for a long time, I wanted a mentor, And I had to figure things out on my own, and it took a lot of time. Why? Because I could save a lot of time and heartaches and do a better job than what I've done now. Why? Well, because I missed a lot of things. I neglected my main priorities, and I missed things. I shared a little bit about this in the welcome part, I believe, but I missed some things. I had a kid who was struggling really bad. I remember, worrying that I was going to find a letter and he was going to end his life. Like if you've ever had a child that has struggled with that, man, I don't wish that on anyone, but it was terrifying, and I could have missed that. I assumed everything was okay because on the surface, everything looked okay. He was a little angry, but it was not okay. Looking like he was successful. He had a girlfriend. He was an athlete. He had friends. Like everything looked great, but it wasn't. And I could have missed that. And I don't want any other mom to feel what I feel, or worse, not catch it in time. And so that is one reason why this means so much to me. Another, I have a child who was being groomed by a neighbor, and I almost missed it. At the time, I felt like God wanted me to use my voice, and I had been working on this and learning to speak up when it was uncomfortable and in controversy and in conflict, and when it was just extremely uncomfortable. I was learning how to advocate for myself and for my kids. And when it came time, I was able to speak up. But I also know who I was years before, and I'm not sure I would have recognized it. I definitely would not have leaned in to my instincts. I may not have trusted them. I would have thought, oh, that's a good family. They're good Christian people. They go to church. They're in missionary family. Like they look like, 100% could be on the cover of Christian, world, whatever, like the ideal Christian family. But because I had done the work and God had walked me through this, I was able to trust my instincts. I was able to ask the questions. I was able to make the decision to acknowledge it. Some people can't even acknowledge it. I made the decision to go to therapy myself. I had to make the decision to move out of that neighborhood. A lot of different things that if I hadn't done the work that I had done, I may have done differently. And our life would be extremely different. And so, again, those two very different examples. I want to be the person that can walk along with someone and be like, I know this sucks. I know you're having marriage issues. Like, let's lean in. How does this make you feel? What's going on? What's the trigger? Where are you being triggered? I just want to be the mentor that I wish I had, because I really, really needed it. And I didn't have it for a really long time. So again, get into the meat of it, the nitty gritty, where it kind of hurts and is uncomfortable. That's when you know that you're onto something. And hold on, let me take a sip. That matters. Okay. So once you have that and you know where you're going, distractions are going to come, but you're going to stay focused because it matters that much. When survival mode happens and you get back in survival mode, because listen, I've been in survival mode several times since I started doing this work. But survival mode doesn't last near as long as it used to because I'm intentional now. I'm aware of it. I know what to look for. And I know that I can take a day, but I can't take forever. I got to get back to where I'm going. I got to get back on the path. Sometimes when we're in survival mode, we don't eat, like we're just so busy trying to pretend like we are not drowning and about to die in the water because, you know, we shipwrecked, that we don't even recognize the people that are there trying to lend you a hand and help you get back on the boat or to get on a different boat or hand you the life preserver, right? And so again, I just want to challenge you, lean in, friend, and let's continue this workshop. I know today is kind of hard. Tomorrow it's going to be so much better. I'm going to give you everything I know on time management. We're going to talk about tracking your time and what you're going to be doing with your time, because at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours. It's what we do with the 24 hours that matters most. And I have a lot of time hacks. A lot of people say they can't do one-on-one coaching because they don't have time. What I will tell you is those who work with me, they save time because I give them so many tips that will save them time that they get hours back from the hour they put in working with me. So again, off on a rabbit trail here, but looking forward to day 2 is going to be awesome. I'll see you then.